Good evening. Introducing a television programme is much like composing one of those 25-word or less competition tiebreakers. The audience must be immediately intrigued and engaged, and the introduction must be very witty and encompassing and must rise above the competition. It's a difficult task.
I'm Joy Thorpe. I've been comping for about 15 years, and over that time I've won over 1,000 prizes.
I'm John Hall. I've been entering competitions since 1972, and last year I entered over 800.
I'm SUZANNE, and I've been comping for 6 years. I won 2 cars and holidays in Miami, the south of France, and hundreds of other prizes.
I'm PIPPA McSEAN, and because of my love for competitions, the highlight of my day is when the postman calls.
I'm RITA SMALLBURNS. I've been entering competitions for 24 years. Some years ago, the nickname Queen of Competitions was attached to me, and the name stuck.
I'm Kevin Francis, and I believe that entering and winning competitions can and does make your dreams come true.
Because my guests tonight are all passionate competition enthusiasts, I thought it only wise that they themselves should compose the introduction and read it also. So, Kevin, this is the introduction to tonight's programme, which you composed upstairs about 20 minutes ago.
I now present the Comping Six, who are here to reveal their winning tricks. To carry off a prize each time, they always work in rhythm and rhyme.
I noticed a few that actually just counted that in my head, and it was 28 words, not 25. But I'll let you have a couple of words. No
Well, you
problem.
didn't give us much time, did you?
I gave you a few minutes. Now, I was wondering, are you all agreed that this would win a competition? Is this the perfect introduction to this programme?
I think it's
the best one you've had.
Mm. Yeah. Is there anything you do
Got great
differently?
calibre behind it.
Yeah. I noticed it's in rhyme. Do you usually write these things in rhyme?
I do nearly always. Seems to be the most popular format.
I don't write in rhyme. I much prefer the one-liner, you know, the quick, sort of witty statement, really. Humorous, make them laugh. I always think if you can make them laugh, you're halfway there, really.
It's knowing where to send your rhyming slogans and where to send your non-rhyming slogans.
That's true. That is definitely
Yeah,
true.
you have to know what the promoter wants.
There's some companies which you know prefer the rhyming slogans. How do you know these things? Where does this
Well, if you see a list
information
of
come
winners,
from?
you'll notice that certain promoters and certain judges are going to prefer... Well, you see a list of rhyming slogans. Others, you can see the odd witty tiebreaker that wins, which I think is very clever.
You do your homework, basically.
You do,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Research and investigation.
this is over years of research. 24 years with you.
And you also look at the entry form as well. I mean, if it's all sort of witty and it's all got exclamation marks everywhere and looks like fun, and then you think, yes, they want something to go along with their promotion. But if it's something and it's something for, say, vacuum cleaner, and it's very serious, telling you all the good points on it, then you try to write more seriously to put those points across that they're trying to put across in their adverts.
Yes, sometimes you can see wordplay in the lead-in phrase, can't you?
Yes.
And if there's wordplay in the lead-in phrase, then you know
Puns.
that's what they're looking for, puns in particular, yeah.
I think sometimes it depends on the sort of prize as well. I mean, there was a terrific one to win a day of James Bond, and the winner actually had to go over on sand buggies and fly in a helicopter and then finish the night off in a casino. So evidently they'd be looking for a fun type tiebreaker for that sort of competition.
So which companies, you mentioned vacuum cleaners as being sometimes more serious, you had to do a more serious answer.
Yeah, sometimes you've got something and they're promoting it and they might give you 6 points. They might say this item has got this new feature. So obviously they want that in their slogan or to be promoted. They don't just want it's a fun type of thing. It just all depends, really.
You're doing the advertiser's job for them, aren't you?
Yes.
These people get
really.
paid £100,000 to come up with one of these, and you're doing it for
fun.
Yeah, or to win a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, but sometimes you just win a T-shirt and it's still fun.
The most serious, I think, are for cosmetics and fashion. You cannot be humorous about cosmetics.
Why?
they won't accept it. You've got to be serious when you write a cosmetic slogan. Or
They
else
take
they'll...
themselves very seriously and they expect you to do the same.
So give me a perfect cosmetic slogan, a winning cosmetic slogan.
Oh,
Slogans aren't like that. It's not like that. I feel that you have to look at the product and the form, and then you work from that. You don't just work from your head, because then they won't pick it out, because it won't be relevant to that product and that promotion.
But have any of you actually won a cosmetics competition?
yes.
What was it?
Umpteen bottles of aftershave. I don't know how many, but there was aftershave. I've won other bits and pieces, mainly on aftershave products.
And do you remember what the tiebreaker was for that?
No, I don't.
I thought you'd remember them all.
Talking about aftershave, I won a trip to Venice, and because the aftershave happened to come from Italy, I found out that it was an Italian one. So I said, from origin Adriatic, it makes the girls ecstatic. And that was an example of one occasion when I did do a rhyming slogan, unusually for me. There was the chap who went from naught to sexy in 60 secs. Remember that?
Oh, yes, the car one, yeah.
Who was that?
I don't remember who
Not one of
won
us.
it. It isn't ours, but I thought it was very funny at the time.
Yeah.
I won one to win an audition on a floating weather map, and we had to describe ourselves. So I put, I'm 5'2", my eyes are blue. I'm not quite Madonna, but will I do? And we won an audition, 50 of us went down on this weather map. And it was
This
absolutely...
is the Albert Dock.
It is.
Fred the Weather.
That's right. It was absolutely hilarious because it was 50 of us all on here, and I was stood on the corner of East Anglia, and the water was sort of kept creeping up.
As it does in the real East Anglia.
Yes, absolutely. And it was even more funny because there was a lady stood over in Ireland, and she forgot the script, and she stood there live on TV, and she said, well, I think it's going to be sunny, or then again it could rain, or maybe we're having snow, but whatever, we're having a fantastic day here in the Hebrides, and everybody just dissolved. So I think the thing about comps is, you know, there's so much fun and excitement in it. I think it's a real buzz.
It's obviously
Do you
not
agree?
just to do with winning big prizes if you're happy to enter a competition where you just get to stand on Fred's floating weather map.
No, it was a fun. I mean, I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was freezing cold. I drove 4 hours over to Liverpool, and I just stood there at the end of the docks and looked at the water, and I thought, oh, I must be mad. But honestly, it was such a fantastic day. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. And I think it's that kind of thing. It doesn't matter whether it's a cruise, a car, or whatever. It's the fun.
Because it must be quite a solitary pursuit.
Oh, not really.
No.
No, there's plenty of comping clubs all around the country. And a couple of us are on the committee of one of the biggest clubs that meets in London. We meet once a month. And it's very chatty, isn't it? And we have different people come round and speakers. Lynn spoke at our club, Joy spoke at our club.
And you make some great friends.
Yeah, yeah.
And you help each other to win.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
And you meet people who understand why you've got a cupboard full of tins of food with no labels on.
When you win a year's supply of something, do they all come at once or do they come over the year?
I won a year's supply of ladies' sanitary towels, and they came all at once.
And what did you do with them?
I gave them away.
Did you give them away to just to one person, or did you actually give them?
No,
like,
I
one
stood
each?
on the street corner just handing them. I didn't really.
I'm glad because I'd think that odd.
I have to tell you, the first prize was a trip to America, which is why I entered it, because I thought that might be your next question.
No, I thought it was perfectly reasonable. It didn't cross my mind.
It's not always the prizes you win, it's the challenge of thinking up a tiebreaker.
I think you often win things that you never expected to win, but that doesn't mean that it's a disappointment.
No.
Sometimes the prize that you didn't go for is as entertaining or fun as the first one, if you had won it.
So
Did any of you enter that one to win the flock of sheep?
Oh, yes, yes.
I mean, can you imagine somebody knocking on your door and saying, where would you like me to put the sheep, madam?
It
Absolutely hilarious.
It was actually something like 3 sheep or 6 sheep or something. It wasn't a whole flock.
I think 6 constitutes a flock.
I had a
But,
year's supply of jelly babies not long ago, and that did come once a quarter, which was quite good. You didn't have to have them all at once.
Didn't you also win a chance to train with Magic Johnson?
Oh, basketball training with Magic Johnson, yes.
And you won
yes.
that?
Oh, I won it, yes. Don't ask me if I went on it, though.
I assume that you didn't. You gave it to somebody.
I gave it to one of my grandchildren, yes, and they had a wonderful time. It's very exciting to win something that you do, you know, with a famous person. I also won tennis coaching with Virginia Wade, which another grandson went on that for a tennis weekend. And those sort of prizes, I think, all agree, are just as much fun as winning, you know, an expensive holiday.
It's very interesting because, like any other hobby, comping's got its own language. And the word comping, which means to actually enter the competitions, has now gone in the English dictionary. And when we meet, we say, you know, did you collect your EFs and your LWEs and your POPs? And people look at you and they think, you know, what are these things?
What are these things?
Well, the LWEs are long white envelopes, and these are normally what the congratulations letters comes in. So you rush down to meet the postman in the morning and open it and say, oh, congratulations, you have won. And it doesn't really matter whether it's a car or a T-shirt, it's just that, you know, the excitement that, oh, you've done it again.
The postman is one of the most important people in our lives.
Oh, absolutely.
I got my postman hooked. He entered a competition and he won an embroidery kit. And then his next prize, he won a year's supply of tights. So I would like to.
Yes, I won a year's supply.
Yeah, so did I. We're probably the only ones that entered.
Talking about the things that you don't expect to win, though, but turn out to be quite successful in the end. I entered a competition and the prize I got wasn't the first prize, it was the second prize, but it was a designer haircut for my husband, who happens to be totally bald. So I had to write to the promoters and tell them that it wasn't too suitable for him, and they actually sent him a very nice present and theatre tickets instead. So you see, it didn't matter in actual fact, but it wasn't the prize I went for in the first place.
But is it all worth it for the moment? Do you do it for the moment when the postman comes in?
Oh,
yes.
for the adrenaline.
It's the thrill of the chase.
Yeah.
And I suppose also the thrill of beating hundreds of thousands
If
of
I
other...
come first in a competition, I know I've beaten Rita and Joy. I think, wow! Because really, I just feel like a beginner in this. That's what me and Kevin were saying, weren't we? We just feel like beginners when we see people like this and we sort of think, and come first in a competition, we think, I bet Joy and Rita entered. I mean...
7,000 is enough for everybody to go at. But we got to great lengths. I don't know about you, but I once drove 50 miles to a supermarket to buy products because they hadn't got it in my town. And when I went to the checkout, I got 20 separate items. So I put them all there on the conveyor belt. And then I said to the checkout assistant, I want to pay for these separately. So she looked at me and she said, why? I said, to enter these competitions. And she just looked, raised her eyebrows, turned to the woman on the next thing. She said, oh no, not another one of them. But the thing is, you've got to send in your till receipt for separate items. They don't allow photocopies. So you have to go and pay for one, get one till receipt, then take the next thing. And the queue, you know, you get people behind you. But there's no point in driving 50 miles if you're only going to buy one thing, is there? So we save them up.
They never understand at the checkout. You have to go around the supermarket 6 or 7 times if you're entering 6 or 7 competitions.
I got obsessed once, only once in my whole life, and that was with the Ribena Harry the Lime promotion. You buy a pack of Ribena, you expect the black currant, but if you get the lime flavour, then you win. I actually got no idea because it was purely the thrill of the chase. And every time you'd stick the straw in, you'd take it and you'd see it coming up the straw. And obviously, and I bought thousands of cartons of Ribena in that time, and never once did I come across Harry the Lime. Did any of you?
No.
But you do get obsessed. I once had 100.
I was obsessed.
I once had 100 chocolate bars in my fridge.
Because you had to...
Because I had to send off all the wrappers. And I have to say I did win, but it wasn't the major prize, but it was a weekend at the Ritz.
Did
Very
you
nice.
eat the
And my mother
chocolate?
also had 100 chocolate bars in her fridge as well. So I think we kept that particular confectionery company in business.
How many of you got into cat food with no labels on? You haven't got a cat. I got 20 sat on my side.
I have a few, but the
I've
next
taught
door
my dog
neighbour's
to
cat
eat cat
manages
food.
that.
When there are cat food promotions.
And really, and the
The
dog...
cats to eat dog food when there are
And
dog
do they
food
happily eat it?
promotions. They don't bother at all, and they're quite pleased when you get a year's supply of dog food or a year's supply of cat food.
Can they tell?
Oh, yes.
When the
yes,
guy
of course.
turns up with hundreds of tins.
You get 365 tins all at once.
There's a lady in my local paper that's just won 20 years of holidays, and she's got to spend £20,000 worth of holiday vouchers every year for 20 years.
Yes.
And if all that came in one lifetime, I mean, that's great.
Hope she lives 20 years to enjoy them then.
Yeah, she said it's the biggest value prize she's ever won,
should
and she
think
just
it
can't
is.
believe it.
What was that on?
I don't know, really. It was just in the local paper.
A local
She's not looking for a husband, is she?
I don't think so.
You thinking of putting yourself up as a prize?
Don't tempt me.
And is this just magazine and supermarket promotions, or do you do the television quiz shows also?
I did do a quiz show, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I tried to win a house actually, but I didn't manage that. I came second, and it was great fun. It was meeting all the people, and you get a lovely stay in a hotel, and they just treat you so nice, and you see behind the scenes. It's just good fun, and it was really good.
And was it more difficult under the, they always say the hot
Yep.
studio lights, the heat of,
It
the
really
heat of the
is,
moment, you
yeah.
forget.
I mean, this one you had to gamble as well, and really you're supposed to work it out and everything. When it comes down to it, you don't. You just say £50 on, and you just can't really think about it. And all the things you have in your head planned, it just doesn't work out at the time.
I was actually going to bring up gambling because, of course, there's a big similarity, the same adrenaline rush when you're in a casino at the racetrack. Do any of you go for that side of the adrenaline rush?
No. See, we've got a better chance because we've got our skill, haven't we?
So we
I
all
have-
like to feel that we can win
Yeah.
on our own
Well,
merit
we like to
rather
work
than
for our
chance.
prizes,
Yeah.
don't we?
Mm.
Feel that you've
Skill
really
plays a more
achieved.
important part than luck.
Mm.
I mean, if you win a car in a draw, it's not so exciting as winning something a lot smaller that you've written a slogan for. You would agree on that?
I would
yeah.
agree, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mind you, I wouldn't go in a casino and not put a bet on. I mean, I would at least put my money on the table. But there again, I've never been in a casino.
But you imagine them to be more low rent because there's no skill really involved. It's all,
Just pure luck.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously some casino games have more skill than others, like blackjack, if you count the cards. I mean, there's a similar skill there to what you do. But it's all to do with the tiebreaker, with the word play.
Yes, we've
There's
all
some
got a
in-
love of words, haven't we, really?
Yeah, there's some interesting. I mean, I love the ones where you see how many words you can make out of things. And there was one to make a name out of a car name. And I spent 3 full days in a library. And I just used to go home and have my dinner and go back again. And I waded through 20 volumes of a dictionary, came up with over 1,000, and then I won this car. And afterwards, people said to me, "Oh, you were lucky." But there was no reason why they couldn't have done that. And when you speak to a lot of people and you say, "Do you enter competitions?" And they say, "Yeah, you know, I have a go on the lottery or I have a go, as you say, at a casino." But to us, that's not competitions. It's the actual doing the task and something that you enjoy doing.
You must all surround yourselves with thesauruses and dictionaries and encyclopedias.
Yes.
Many of them. I've got shelves and shelves of books, dictionaries.
Yeah.
And there are monthly solutionist magazines which alert you to the competitions coming up. Joy writes a tiebreaker clinic in one of them, which is extremely helpful. And we sort of rely on that a great deal as well.
And friends and family. If you know someone's into fishing or someone's into whatever, you know, they've got a lot of dogs or something else, when something comes to that subject, I ring them up. If I know someone's into football and someone else into boxing, I'm on the phone straight away and saying, "What do you know about this?" You know.
Yeah, a lot of phoning goes on.
Yeah.
You must be experts in the most esoteric subjects, a lot of you. You must
We
learn
know a
some
lot of
peculiar
useless
facts.
information.
You do learn a lot through,
Yeah.
through comping, going to the library and reference books and encyclopedias and things. It's amazing the amount of sort
The
of
trivia.
extraneous
Yeah.
facts that you
You pick
acquire over the years.
Didn't you win 5 prizes to 5 states in America? And in the same weekend, you won a trip to LA, trip to Barbados. Where else?
I did. There was a competition on a beer a few years ago, which was terribly generous. They had prizes to every single one of the states, and you had to say which one you wanted to go to and why you'd like to go there. That was the tiebreaker. So I got a reference book out of the library, a travel guide type thing, to pick out some states that I thought all the world wouldn't want to go to. So I didn't choose Florida and, you know.
Like Ohio.
Sorry?
Nothing. Where did you choose?
I did all the sort of unusual ones like Montana and Nebraska and Maryland and things that I thought people wouldn't think about. And I wrote these appropriate slogans for each of the particular states, and I did one for each of my 5 children. And in due course, my son was on the phone saying, "Guess what? You've won me a trip to wherever it was." And I said, "Oh, great," you know. And within a few minutes,
to end up in Nebraska for a fortnight, was it
Well,
worth it?
yes, well, Colorado, that was a bit better. But a few minutes later, my second son was on the phone saying, "Guess what, Mum? You've won me a trip to Georgia or something." So I thought, I wonder if any of the girls have got them as well. So I rang up one of my daughters and said, "You haven't by any chance won a trip to the States, have you?" I said, "Funny you should ask." As a matter of fact, I have. Anyway, we ended up with all the 5 of our kids, each won a trip to the States in this one competition, which was a pretty unusual run of luck. But the very same weekend, as you say, I also heard another competition. I won a trip to LA and another one again to the Caribbean. So, I mean, that was a run of luck that I've never repeated, never likely to. It's just so exciting. You just go up to the clouds and don't come down again. It's absolutely
But of course, when
thrilling.
you are having your holiday in LA, you have to stop entering competitions, don't you, for that?
Well, I have been in the state where I almost didn't really want to go on holiday because I was frightened of all the competitions I'd missed while I was away, and I thought, I can't afford to go on this holiday because I shall miss the closing date for.
Companies talk a lot about these spells. You can go months and months and not win anything, perhaps a T-shirt or something, and all of a sudden, all your prizes come at once. And I won a car and 2 holidays in the space of 10 days, and you just do not come down from cloud 9. It's absolutely fantastic. And you get to the point that, you know, you're sitting there and somebody rings you up and they say, "You've won a car." And you think, well, this is somebody, you know, winding me up, or is it real? And I think the promoters get used to this because they normally give you a telephone number and say, "Hang up and ring me back, it's genuine." But when you take one phone call and then you get another one, and then a third one comes in a matter of days, it's, as you say, it's fantastic.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Friday the 13th this year was brilliant. I got 3 video recorders, a mountain bike and a Buzz Lightyear talking toy, all on Friday the 13th. And I just kept answering the door, and answered the door again, answered the door again, and looked out and there was a delivery van, and then there was Parcel Force thing, and then there was another Securicor van, and I couldn't believe my luck. You know, it's just...
It does go like
Yeah.
that, doesn't it?
I answered the door one day and there was a great big removal van there, and the man came out and I thought, what on earth have I won? And he came out with this box, and it was a 10.5-pound block of chocolate.
Oh, lovely.
And, you know, really great.
Have any of the prizes just not turned out to be what they seemed?
Oh,
You thought you were going to get something great and it turned out to be real
I won an
disappointment.
adventure holiday, and you ought to have seen it. It was camping on a hill in Yorkshire, and when I arrived, all the things weren't there. There was no electricity, and they'd gone broke, and it was the last week. And they'd taken back all the quad bikes, all the mountain bikes, the abseiling was off, the ballooning was off, and they said, "You can go horse riding one day." I said, "Oh, great, I love horses. What about the other 5 or 6 days? We can go field walking one day, mountain walking the next, rambling the next." And it was absolutely awful. And there were some young girls on the site that were about 14 years old, and there was no adults to look after them, so I ended up having them in my tent with me. One of them went to hospital for a day, and I was the only adult around, so I had to go and spend a day in the hospital with the little girl, and it was absolutely terrible. There was no toilets apart from one portaloo, and there was a shower, which was actually a hose pipe with sort of wooden posts put round with some tarpaulin. It was absolutely awful.
Didn't you measure using spaghetti
Yes.
how far it would be to the moon? And you got it right within a couple of inches, I hear.
No, the thing was they gave you 3 different numbers of cans, and they said you've got to say how much spaghetti or how many tins would it take to get to the moon. But it wasn't the tins where you could measure it easy. It was the contents. So it involved measuring the lengths of spaghetti.
So you had to open the tin of spaghetti.
Yes.
How did
Now-
you do this?
Messily.
With
Because
great
of co-
difficulty and very messily.
So you had to make them all look totally straight.
Lay them out.
Lay them out next to each other.
I did it for a laugh, really, that I got these out. My wife came home from work and she saw all this spaghetti laid out. But no, it was a very messy one. But mind you, I did win first prize.
Oh, brilliant.
Talking about the thrill, the adrenaline, can you imagine answering the telephone one afternoon and somebody on the other end saying, do you remember entering such and such a competition? Well, I'm delighted to tell you that you've won a house.
And did that happen to you?
I think that was the high peak of my life, really. It was absolutely incredible. Couldn't believe it. Our feet didn't touch the ground.
And did you move into the house?
We moved into the house. We sold the house we lived in. We moved into the house in a completely different area. And
Different
it was
town?
during the... Oh, yes, we moved to the Midlands from Lancashire. And it was at the height of the housing boom. So we lived in the prize house for 12 months and sold it for double the prize value in 12 months.
And then moved back home again?
Oh, no, we moved up to the northeast then. And that's where we're going to stay. But it was the biggest thrill of any comper's life because it came by sheer effort, no chance, no luck, you know, not like winning the pools or something. And
What did you
I
have to do
felt
to win the
I'd
house?
beaten the whole country. It was wonderful.
What did you have to do to win it?
I had to decide on the features which would sell the house best. And actually, that competition represented something I very much believe in because I do believe in researching as much as possible about what I'm writing about. So I actually went to the site where they were building the houses, this particular builder, and found out the features that they were putting into their houses and the ones that they were particularly proud of putting into their houses, and therefore I then picked the right features. And then I had to complete a conversation between an imaginary buyer and the builder, which was quite fun because it was different from usual. I've got a picture of the house there in actual fact. I don't know whether you can see that, it's a small one, but it was a 3-bedroom detached
See
house.
that? Yeah.
What were the neighbours like?
Very nice. Why?
Jealous.
Oh, I see what you mean. I hope not.
Do they think there's that weird woman next door?
Oh, yes. I do think they probably think I'm a little bit weird, but...
My friends think I'm totally eccentric. Especially having got on my hands and knees and measured the length of the mouth with a little measuring machine.
Really?
What was that to win?
Well, you had to. It was a competition about 3 years ago where you had to say how many. You had to estimate how many chocolate bars would fit from Admiralty Arch to Buckingham Palace. So I was on my hands and knees with this little measuring device. And I
did
thought
the
I had the
police,
perfect
get
answer.
involved in
I
this?
had some very strange looks from the police, but sadly I didn't win.
Really?
Yeah.
Somebody,
And I really thought I was
beat you
going to
it?
win. I really thought I would get the, as accurately as possible.
Where do you think you went wrong?
I don't know.
because they did it by a calculation and
Yes.
not by actually
Yeah.
doing it.
So you think that actually you got it right?
I
and they
don't
got
think
it
the
wrong?
judging panel were on their hands and
I'm
knees.
sure there would be. Talking about being on your hands and knees, I once wanted a particular can of pet food to complete the labels that I was collecting. And when we went to the supermarket, that there was only one can with this particular label on, and it was right at the very top on the highest possible shelf. So I persuaded my husband to get down on his hands and knees, and I stood on his back. And I mean, I'm a lot heavier than he is anyway. Of course, by the time I reached up, because I was heavier, I grabbed it, he collapsed, I grabbed at the shelf, brought down all the tins of pet food, and we both sat on the floor surrounded by about 2,000 tins of pet food. We were not very popular.
And have you all given up your jobs to do this? Do you all do this day in, day out?
Well, I'm retired anyway, so I didn't have to give up. You gave up your job.
I gave up my job 15 years ago. And I never know now why I did. I'm not a gambler by nature, but something seemed to tell me that I'd do better still if I had more time. And I'm a morning person in particular, so I used to work very, very early in the morning. And I thought if I gave myself more time, didn't go to work, I would do better. And fortunately, it paid off.
I got made redundant and I picked up a crossword puzzle. and rather sceptically sent it in. And I was really surprised and delighted when I won this £10 voucher.
This was the first thing you'd ever won?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started to have a look for competitions, but I was still a little bit sceptical about it. And I was down in the local store going to buy some paint, and I just spotted this entry form on the other cans. So I thought, oh, I'll have a go at this. But as a beginner, I didn't really know what these tiebreakers was. And it said you to say why you wanted to win this car, and something about it, why this paint and the car were a winning team. And I had no idea. I didn't even know how to go about it. And I just scribbled something down and sent it off. So I think in a way it was probably good luck, but I won one of the runner-up prizes, which was a sports bag and towel. And I think really that was a turning point, because then I started to look at them. And I must have been entering for about a year, mainly prize draws, and I won things like cuddly toys and bottles of wine and jeans for the children, that kind of thing. And then I realised that there was tiebreakers. So I started to send for some of these winning lists and realised that there was an act to it. And that, you know, you have to look at the words and read the cans. And then the prizes started coming in.
And do you think if you got to do the car paint one again now, you'd win the car?
Well, perhaps not, but certainly, you know, we'd have a better chance at it. I think at the end of the day, even if you've written a really good tiebreaker, it's what the judges like. Sometimes I've sent in a tiebreaker that I've thought's good and it's not won. And you can send in one that you're not too happy with and it's won a prize.
The notion of the word tiebreaker implies that two of you are tied and this is the one which is going to decide whether you win. But that's not really how tiebreakers work, is it? Isn't it all done on the tiebreaker?
Well, there are hundreds upon thousands of entries that they've got to go through or should be going through. So your job is to try to write something that is going to stand out as being different, because as I know through my clinic, the majority of people are all on the same tack. They're all saying the same sort of things over and over and over again.
Like what?
Oh, like what, girls?
Something excites me, something delights me,
yes,
hope somebody invites me.
Experts
There are a lot of
perfect it, connoisseurs select it.
Yeah, a lot of chestnuts and cliches which are trotted out all the time ad nauseam. And really, if you want to be in with a chance with most competitions, you have simply got to approach it from a different angle, albeit still easily understood with praise for the product, which you've got, like you were saying, I think you gave an example just now about, you know, would I do, or something like that, with a touch of humour in it, which makes the judges some sort of sit up and take notice and think, oh, that's different, and then you've cracked it. But if you just write the same old stuff all the time, you'll never, ever make it.
How does your clinic work? Do people come to your
It's
house?
in a magazine, in a competitor's magazine that people take by private subscription. It's a monthly. And I write a page in that in which I run over some of the entries that people have sent to me that have lost, which they definitely think should have won. It's always, why didn't I win this? Surely this must have been a winner. And then, I mean, everybody, we all think that all the time, mind you.
Can you always tell the reasons why they haven't won?
Well, you can actually. If you start to really go into it, you can usually see why it didn't, because it was a cliche or something that everybody says, because it didn't scan properly, or because it was just dull or repetitive or uninteresting. It's got nothing about it. It's got no character to it, no zip. And
So what are the cliches? You said excites, delights and...
Invites.
Invites.
Yes.
What are the other big no-go areas?
It makes life richer for the poorer.
Oh, yes.
Experts
perfect
perfect
it.
it, connoisseurs select it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the latest one is...
Favour the savour
Yes.
when I savour the flavour.
Yes, and leisure
That's
and
an old one.
pleasure and, you know, all these sort of cliched rhymes that come out all the time. You really got to try and break away from that, break the mould and say something. Rita's sort of one-off punchy lines will always catch the eye of a judge when he's going through thousands and thousands of these things. Something that's short and different and catchy will jump out, and that's the way to approach it. Be different, be
I
original.
think the most recent one is about the stylish, reliable, something untrue.
Oh yes, if
If only so and so
whatever it is, made men
too.
too. That's the latest
Yes.
cliche.
I
I mean, it's
How
very
do these
good.
cliches
really.
come about? Because none of these things sound like cliches to me. I don't
No, well,
enter these.
that's the thing. You see,
They
they
keep
don't.
repeating.
So it's like a general sort of consciousness through the world that everybody's coming
Well,
up with these things
Many
by
of these,
chance at the
Chestnut.
same time.
many of these are written in. You can pick up a book of slogans, and of course, anybody entering reasonably often picks up these books.
Yes, they do.
And of course, once you've got them, you start. The ideas are in your mind. You start to use them yourself, without thinking sometimes.
Provided you can find a firm that doesn't run very many competitions and hasn't seen all these chestnuts before, then you're well away because they think, oh, that's brilliant, you see, because they've never seen it before. But if you go to any of the companies that run competitions all the time, they will have seen those and they will hopefully chuck them out. So that's where experience comes in. You've got to know your promoter.
So your house is just jam-packed full of stuff. You've all got a million vacuum cleaners each and
No.
thousands of you not. Haven't you got 23 cameras?
I've got 23 cameras, and almost half of them are prize wins.
What, you bought the other 11 and a half?
I've taken pictures for 40-odd years. I've been a very keen photographer over the years. I've won quite a few photographic competitions, had pictures in international exhibitions. So, naturally enough, I do anything that involves a camera.
These camping weekends that you all do, do you sit around and do competitions? Do you sit around talking about competitions? Or do you do entirely non-competition activities as a
No,
break?
it's a mixture, isn't it? We have speakers telling you about themselves and how they win and everything. We have workshops, we have a quiz afternoon, all sorts of things. Once we had a murder mystery weekend.
Yeah.
Would you do that? Yeah.
Was it competition related?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
happened?
Oh, it was quite good fun because it was people that accomplished themselves that played the parts. And it was good fun. And the main thing, though, is just mixing and talking, isn't it? I find. That's
Was
the
the
best
person
thing.
being murdered as they were doing a competition? Was it a competition related murder?
It's called Steal the Tiebreaker.
What I do on my weekends is we actually work through together on a competition, and we normally take the label off the can and we explain about the stages that you should go through, you know, to get a lot of words to start. Because a lot of beginners, what they do is they get a blank sheet of paper and a pen and they sit there and they think, I haven't got a clue what to write. So you've got to start some way. And we actually thrash out ideas together to find out, you know, what sort of things you should be putting down. And this is quite good. And we entered one this particular weekend and we got a complete beginner there. She'd only been comping a few months. And she came up with this one-word slogan, a tiebreaker. And we asked everybody in the room what they thought about it, and it was sort of, not bad. And in the end, we said, well, send a stamp. That's all it's going to cost you. She won £1,000.
What was the word?
She put to drag on, and it was a cigarette company, and she had to make a name to drag on.
How many competitions a year do you think you do?
A few.
I did.
Hundreds a year?
Averages out about one a day for me. One competition, an average of 3 entries, so perhaps 1,000 a year. It's a lot of stamps. That's the
And
trouble.
a big phone bill as well if you're doing phone-ins.
Don't do phone-ins.
I don't do phone-ins.
No.
I did 791 last year.
And do you ever feel you might burn out? You might just lose your inspiration.
No.
Because every comp's different, isn't it? Everyone's got a different angle, everyone's got a different leading, and
I think when you first begin, you tend to do everything you can clap your hands on, really. The sight of a competition form you simply can't resist. I don't do that now. I'm much more selective. If I think it's something that we can use or the children can use, then I'll do it. And if the competition interests me, even more so. But I won't do anything like I would have done at one time. I mean, I would have done 60 a month at least at one time.
I think you get your favourites. I mean, I love the ones with the word making, and I love the ones where you just do something like name a French chateau, We won a holiday to Monaco and Nice a couple of months ago, and that was to name. And it's great fun because I have a system for doing it. I write down a list of names for the products and a list of names for the destination, and then I fuse them together and try to come up with words that don't exist, something a little bit different.
And what was the chateau's name?
Honestly, I can't remember what it was. I was hoping to get a winners list with it on, but now the magazine's gone bankrupt, so I shall never find out.
Luck must come into it though, because I've won nothing. Admittedly, I don't enter 1,000 competitions a year. But, you know, with my Harry the Lime experience, which I still feel a bit bruised by.
Why do you say luck comes into it?
Luck must come into it.
No, only the fact that the postman delivers it, that's the only way.
If luck comes into it, why do the same people keep winning?
There's got to be a certain
Positive
amount of
thought
luck.
more than luck. Positive thought. You go into it. If you go into it feeling that you cannot win, or you're not going to win, you won't win. But if you go into it thinking, I'll win this, then you stand a chance. You can't guarantee you'll win it, but at least you'll stand a chance.
That sounds a little bit like the Scientology theory. You have to go into something with extreme positive energy and almost a feeling maybe of superiority over the other competitors.
You haven't
In
got to
this
be brave
case,
or
I don't
anything.
think I go in with a feeling of superiority because I look on it more as companionship. The people out there, there's a lot of people I know doing competitions. If you can beat them, all well and good, but I cheer them on if they win.
And if you're going to say, well, I'm not going to win, what's the point of doing it?
I think it is a positive attitude. I mean, my brother-in-law gave me a little rabbit, and I call him Fiesta. And I sat him on the windowsill, and I was telling everybody I was going to win a car, really going to win this. And I could see this car gleaming red in the driveway. And people just laughed. They said, But with that positive attitude, I entered everything I could do to win a car and really believed it was coming. And when I won it, it was a Fiesta.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have superstitions? Do you know that if a black cat walks in front of you, you'll win a Fiesta?
If a black cat walks in front of me, I'll kick it.
Not really.
That's the only superstition
It's
I've
down
got.
to hard work, basically, at the end of the day.
Is it that pragmatic?
Well, I think the others are right in saying that you've got to think positively. You've got to see yourself as a winner, and you've just got to keep on, no matter how many times you lose. You've always got to think every time that this is it and that yours is going to be the best. And when you get a sort of buzz and you think, nobody's going to beat this one, and you feel positive about it. And you've got to keep that feeling going all the time. Never, ever give up. Just keep going, and your turn will always come.
You've got to make effort. Like one day, it was the last closing day, and I had to put in an entry, and it was the next town to me. So I got on my motorbike and went and delivered it. And I said to they must have thought I was a courier, because I said, can you please make sure this gets to the competition department? And I handed it in, and I put by hand, written on it, everything in a big envelope, handed it in. And the next day I got a phone call, and I had one, and I won £500 of musical instruments. I got a guitar and amplifier. So it was worth the effort. And first of all, I thought, shall I ride down there? Oh, it looks a bit like it might rain. I think I'll just sit and watch TV. And I thought, no, I'll make the effort. So just making that little bit of extra effort got me £500 of things.
I once won a television like that. We happened to be walking on the seafront, and we walked through the amusement arcade to take a shortcut. And then I stopped because there was this word win on the side. So I filled this form in and dropped it in the box. And I think my entry must have been on the top. And when I read the rules at the side, it said, entrance must be present at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And it was raining and what have you. And I thought, well, shall I go or shan't I? And I thought, yes, I will. So I walked up all the way back up there and stood there, and there was only 6 of us. And he just put his hand in the box, drew it out, and mine was first. So I won this 26-inch colour television just by making the effort and walking back. And that was pure luck.
You can't always win things when you want to win them, though, can
No.
you?
No.
I mean, our daughter was married in the Seychelles, and we were going over to the wedding, and we wanted a camcorder to record this beautiful event. So I tried every competition I could come across for a camcorder, and I couldn't win one anyhow. It went on for months. And in the end, just before the wedding, we went to an electrical store and priced them and said, well, we'll come back tomorrow and make our decision. So I went home, and of course what happened tomorrow, which was 3 days before the wedding, we actually won a camcorder. And it was for one of the few products that I bought that I couldn't use because it was on disposable nappies. And my children were rather too old for disposable nappies, but because I don't often buy things I can't use myself.
Do you ever fear that you might get put on blacklists because you're winning so often?
I don't think they exist.
No.
Well, I think it is a fear, actually. And I think most of us would agree that we don't always use our own names. I use my family's names very often, married children's names and that sort of thing, just in case people have heard of me one way or another. And I think Rita does the same, and I don't know about the others. But it can be a danger. They say, oh no, not her again. You're not exactly blacklisted, but I think they prefer to have their winners. People they haven't perhaps heard of, otherwise they can be accused of favouritism.
Have you had any actual evidence of this, or is it just a feeling?
I know somebody who was actually rung up by the local shop, I won't say which group, and asked not to enter any more of their competitions because she had won several of them.
I'm always a bit confused by this no purchase necessary subclause. Because if you're gonna open up the bar of chocolate and write your name down on the inside bit, you can't just go into a supermarket and nick a whole load of chocolate
no,
wrappers.
underneath, it normally has write to this address on plain paper or on a postcard, and you will go in the drawer.
Those are all instant wins or lucky draws, which
Yeah,
most
instant
of us are
wins,
not
we-
interested in. We all like tiebreaker competitions.
I avoid instant wins like the
So
plague.
do I,
Yeah.
I don't think many of us like them.
No.
You mentioned luck earlier on. I think the free prize draws is basically on luck. And if you enter a local competition, then you've got less entries than you have in a national one. So you've got a better chance of winning.
So you all look at the National Lottery as a low-rent activity.
And these bingo
We
in
always
the
have a
national
go.
papers, and you tick the numbers off every day and all that. I mean, you might be able to win thousands, but I just don't bother because there's no fun in it, is there?
No. I buy 2 lines on the lottery every week.
But you
Yeah,
haven't
well,
won.
we always have a go, but
But not more than £10 a time.
We've
think
proved
my
that we have
wife's had
more
a go this week.
chance by writing tiebreakers.
So it's all down to the tie.
Because they do get judged, hopefully. They do get judged.
much more satisfaction when you win through having done something that's come off the top of your head than just simply filling in your name and address. There's a great sense of achievement if you've written the best tiebreaker from thousands.
It can
How
be
did
quite.
you get into competitions, Joy?
How did I get into competitions, Rita? I had a car accident, didn't I, many years ago? Yes, and I couldn't go to work at the time. And I just wanted something to do, and somebody brought me a form, and I just wrote a tiebreaker for it, sort of like you, not knowing anything about it or not knowing what a chestnut or a cliche was. I just wrote it and won a television, you know, within weeks. And I thought, so this is dead easy, you know, it's a piece of cake. What am I waiting for? And after that, I started entering and I started winning, and that's just how it happened. It was, as we were saying before, divine providence, really.
How did you get into it then, John?
Well, my mummy took me on my knee when I was all of 20 and tried to interest me in competitions.
Oh.
And I did one or two, more or less, with her, but not
Why? Were you
individually.
at a time in your life when there was nothing inspiring you? Was she worried that you were
No,
wasting your
it's
time?
just that she'd done them, and why don't you ever go? And I just didn't have that interest. And then in 1972, I can remember almost to the minute, I was sitting at work on a night shift, and there was a can of cat food there. And I opened it up for the cat, and it said, win. I thought, I'll have a go at that. And I won a food mixer, and that was it. I never looked back. Since 1972, I've entered competitions.
You all have something in common, which is you all won the first time you did it.
All my life when I was a child, I was one of these kids that Mum used to take me to a holiday camp, put me in for the fancy dress every year, dressed up in these silly costumes. And I used to always go in for everything, collect the many wildflowers as you can competitions, stick as many things in a matchbox. And I quite often used to win things, probably because I was the only kid that entered everything. And I used to do the same at school. It always seemed to be my essay that was picked out in the school magazine, or my picture that went on the cover of the magazine, so I won a pencil sharpener set or something. So I've always done the odd ones throughout my life. And when I got older, I did a recipe. I never even baked the cake. I just made it up, sent it to a local paper, and they sent me all these big ingredients to make a cake. And I thought, well, that was easy. I just made it up. So then I tried a tiebreaker for the first time in a magazine. And looking back now, I don't think it was very good. But it must have been what they were looking for, because it was sincere, I suppose.
What was it?
It was for a wildlife painting. Was the first prize, done by some famous artist, and the second prize was a set of his prints framed, and you had to say why you want to conserve wildlife. Well, I can't remember exactly what I put down, but it was something to do with respect for other creatures on the planet or something. And probably now I wouldn't write like that. I would write something else. But at the time, it must have been sort of raw, or they chose it, and I got the second prize.
Because you're second-guessing the cliches now.
You can look too professional. You have to cultivate the art of looking like an amateur.
So quite often people win on their first try, I think.
They
first or second try.
do. And once you are, as you were saying, you're hooked, aren't you? You just can't give it up after that.
And do people who win competitions win the game of life?
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
I think it makes us winners in every field, doesn't it? Gives you a lot more confidence, I think, once you've won something.
And it makes anything possible. Broadens your horizons. You can win trips to places that you would never dream of going to.